I have my views on the work. You probably have your views on the work. Are we creating more of a problem than what it's worth? Or is this stuff that we haven't known and now we know more than ever? What a time to be alive. All right. Shellie.
Fantastic, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to be in your space. It's good to be here. This is a pretty cool place.
Thank you.
I like the little vibe we got here. bit of feminine vibes.
A bit of greenery.
But we're going to bring the heat. So I want to dive into a few questions with you today. I'm intrigued. We've obviously connected and bringing some pretty cool stuff coming up. And I want to tap into a few questions that I want to ask you personally today.
Yeah, sure.
Are you happy with that?
Absolutely, let's go.
Awesome. I want to know, what was the moment that got you into the space of helping people, healing people in multiple areas? You got a fair bit going on here.
Yeah.
What was the stage of your life or the turning point that lent you towards that?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Is that too big, too early?
No, I like to go straight into it. So you've met me where I love to be, and that's deep. So in the moment. So basically for me, it was at the point of my separation, and there was a part of me that I noticed that was really seeking for more out of life, and I knew that there was a lot of deeper stuff within myself that needed to be addressed. So I pretty much signed up and did my first bodybuilding competition. And for me, it started with committing to like dry July because I was a binge drinker on the weekends. And yeah, that was like work all week and then binge drink on the weekends. I really was enjoying my fitness journey. I've been a part of like sports and all of that type of stuff growing up, and I just knew that there was more to life. And so I started with dry July, and then I committed to a bodybuilding competition. And through that process, it wasn't just about showing up and building my physical body. There was like this really huge piece that came around the mindset of the process. And at that time, it wasn't speaking super loudly to me. I think for me, that process was my savior, because it was in a time where I was struggling in my relationship. And I feel like that space was built enough confidence for me to sort of step away from what was no longer serving me. So being a young mum of 3 children at the time, I took that step into finding myself and really deepening my connection to myself. And that started with movement, and it started with nutrition, and then it kind of just kept on going and evolving as I went on my own journey. And there was so much past childhood trauma and all of that sort of stuff that was attracting these certain experiences and situations into my life that started to unravel as my path continued within the space of wellness and, moving my body and nourishing myself. And then I started to see these patterns that were showing up in my life, and that sort of brought me into the space of unpacking some deeper stuff for myself. So to answer your question, what brought me into the space of helping others was my own personal journey that really hit a huge passionate part in me, knowing that if I could do this, then and what it brought me in my life, then I could also help other people do the same and feel the same.
Cool. I love that. The whole piece of taking your own sort of trials, tribulations, working through them, and then coming out the other side to be able to help another person through that.
Yeah.
It's really important. Based on what you just mentioned about the things that you obviously came first, your bodybuilding, the stresses of being a mother and whatever else it was, can you tell me what were the things that you had to face or the hard things that you had to go through to heal through in order to actually be able to help other people who came through to you?
Yeah, of course. Well, I guess for me, the first thing that I witnessed was where I was actually using fitness and having that as a distraction and a dissociation tool to not having to face the deeper stuff that I needed to face. And I think, you know, I've always said this, that having children is like the biggest self-development program that you'll ever do in your life. And for me, it was like watching my children reflect my same behaviors.
Yeah.
To either myself or to each other.
That's huge.
And that was massive for me. It really hit home for me. And I was like, you know what, if I need to do this for my children. I want to be a role model for them, and I really want them to have the tools and I guess not repeat the same patterns that has come from generations before. So yeah, I was really invested in looking at that, and I'd done multiple different courses. I'd really sort of, similar to yourself, I actually started in the online space, and really with that came a lot of self-development. So it kind of was like this natural process, I'd like to say, or the universe had a bigger plan for me, and put me in this space of self-development, and it started peeling back the layers. So whilst I was like building this strong physical body, it was actually a protective mechanism to you know, because I was so broken underneath all of that. And I was building this big physical frame to be like, I am strong and I'm this and you know, like, but underneath all of that was like this deep trauma that needed to be witnessed. And as children, like our basic human needs are to be seen, loved and heard. So I had to really reflect on where I hadn't received that, I guess, that nourishment in life, and then starting to give that to myself first and foremost. So it was this whole big unpacking and process of getting in there and doing the work. And my first ever self-development program that I actually did was when I was 19 years old. And it was after I had my first son, and I went and did Brandon Bay's course, and it was called The Journey. And that was like a whole eye-opener for me, because I felt so touched by that whole process that I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to help others that are experiencing this same feeling of being stuck and not knowing how to heal or how to even know where to start. And I think that's the biggest thing for most people. So for me, my journey became my program. It's like, you know, how to sort of like tap into those areas that are needing witnessing and needing to be seen, loved and heard in order to be able to you know, improve your life, but also essentially have it be a ripple effect with, you know, your children, if you've got children, or, you know.
Cool. I like that. You mentioned a few things to do with like moving, and I think, you know, momentum is one thing that a lot of people are stuck with in today's day and age. Your offer and what you provides people with the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Get movement in their life, start from, say, point A and move to point B, C, D, and sort of get them out of stagnation. So I just want to ask, when you think about the old version of yourself and you look at who you are now, how much has changed based on the work that you've been open enough to do?
so much. Yeah, there's been, like, back where I feel, back then, I was very lost, and there was this, I knew that there was something more, but I just didn't know how to access it. It was like I couldn't actually access it in any way. And so I knew that there was something there, but just didn't know how to go about it. And knowing what I know now, it was just these protective layers that I had to witness and I had to be present to. And also to be able to be present to that, it was also letting go of all the distractions that are actually keeping me away from looking at that. So the distractions within relationships, distractions within even friendships, and also like where I was keeping myself busy in work, and also like being a mother is already a distraction because you're constantly putting other people first, but that also can become a way of dissociating from what it is that you need to deal with. It can become an excuse, as opposed to a reason. And for me, I had to look at that as opposed to it being an excuse of why I couldn't actually look after myself because I had children. It became a reason of why I had to look after myself to be the example.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's something that I preach heavily about, is that you can't fill up someone else's cup if yours is half empty.
Yeah.
And if you're firing at 65%, based on overexerting yourself for other people or the things inside of your life, but not giving yourself everything, then that creates that sort of disconnect to how much you actually give out.
Yeah.
It's true. I take men through that a lot, and it's really, really powerful. You mentioned some things around, distraction and whatnot. I want to ask a question which I think a lot of men would love to understand in today's day and age. So to hear it from a woman who's done the work, I'd like to ask you, what are women actually searching for right now underneath all the noise of the world?
I would actually say safety. Yeah.
What does that look like?
So safety in being able to be all the parts of feminine, because there is so many, you hear it all the time, the emotional parts of a woman is very, men can kind of be like, whoa, like really polarized.
All women are the same sort of mentality.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And it's just like, they've got the highs and the lows, and they've got their hormones, and all of these things are sort of happening. And there's a level of responsibility that a woman has to take in order for where she delivers her energy too. It can be just like a male, it can be very destructive, or it can be very in that divine intentional space. So there is a responsibility on a woman's behalf on how she portrays that energy as well, or how she carries herself. However, I feel like, in the sense of speaking on behalf of myself and my experience, so growing up, there wasn't the healthy masculine role model that I had, and the masculine role model that I knew was toxic and it was destructive. So therefore, the patterning that I then went through life was attracting the same sort of toxic and destructive masculine, because it was familiar, not because I enjoyed it, but because it was familiar to me. I knew what it was going to be like, and I knew the outcome. So then therefore, there had to be an acknowledgement in that. And when I realized that I hadn't been attracting that, divine masculine safe energy that I wanted, I then became the masculine, because that felt safer to me to be the masculine. So then I was attracting men that were more in their feminine energy, and then I was the driver and I was doing all the things, right? So I think for me now, looking at where I've been in those different phases of my life and understanding how I've attracted those relationships in my life that have mirrored to me exactly where I need to look within myself, I now find myself in a space where, and I feel like speaking to a lot of women too, they don't feel safe within the masculine energy. And it doesn't only just stem from, you know, like you said, putting all men in one box, like they're all the same, because they're not. It's them developing or unpacking what their programming was around the masculine and who they are attracting into their life. So it's not so much about, I guess they've got to find the safety within themselves, and they've got to trust themselves enough to know that they are the energy and the vibration of what they're wanting to call in a male counterpart, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. So when you mentioned, I just want to go back a little bit, when you mentioned about how you grew up with the more toxic masculine role models, now that you know exactly what that is, how do you differentiate between men who are doing the work and men who haven't done the work?
As in...
How does that show up? Because if you've had it one way, is it easy for a woman to create a pattern around seeing that could be, she could take that anywhere?
Yeah.
Around the having toxic masculine, and then just see that as a common thing no matter where men are working or how they're showing up, and just have that as a pattern that they live by a story. Is that something that you see?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually more of a vibrational frequency that they carry.
Yeah.
Because they haven't been willing to understand where they haven't felt safe. And my biggest understanding through all this years of work and self-development that I've done is that you need to understand first and foremost within yourself where that safety isn't. So if there's no safety within myself, then how can I attract safety within another person? And it doesn't just mean in a masculine relationship, it can be in any relationship. So when you get to know yourself so much, you give yourself everything that you need in order to feel safe, in order to feel seen and heard and loved. Like when you can give all of that to yourself, there's this different vibrational frequency that you present. So therefore you don't essentially then attract what once was. Yeah, does that?
Yeah,
Is that
I
sort
understand.
of answering your question?
Yeah, it's what you work towards, you create more of.
Correct.
Yeah. I guess on the back of that question, I want to ask, what does a woman who's done the inner work look like, and how does she move through the world differently in terms of men who are also on that level and that trajectory? What does that look like when two worlds collide, with a woman who's doing the work and how she moves through life, and a man who's doing the work and how he moves through life? How does that look?
Yeah, that's beautiful. One of the big things that I always say is where there's expectation, there's disappointment. And so when you're moving through life with this expectation that someone's going to meet you where you need to be met, is like there's always going to be room for disappointment, because we don't always, or we can't always articulate exactly what that expectation is. It's more of a energy that we carry. So I just want to sort of expand on that a little bit. Like I was having a conversation with this woman once, and she was saying to me, you know, like her partner doesn't make her feel beautiful. And I said, at what point was it his job to make you feel beautiful?
True.
And, you know, it really stopped her in her tracks. And she's like, oh, well, I've never really thought about that. And I said, well, that's a pretty big job for someone. Like, that's a pretty big weight for someone to carry if you don't feel beautiful within yourself.
Sure.
You know, like no matter what he says or no matter what he does, you're never going to believe it anyway. So until you actually feel beautiful within yourself, it doesn't matter what anyone says to you. Yes, it's a beautiful compliment, but it's really not going to land as deep if you don't believe it within yourself. Because there's always going to be that doubt in your own mind. Oh, why is he saying that? Does he actually mean it? Or is he just saying it because he thinks that that's what I want to hear? You know, it's like that narrative that plays out. So again, it's coming back when two people are in doing the work. They show up with more confidence. They show up with less expectation. And they're willing to meet the individual or the experience exactly where it's at. There's no pre-thought ideas on how it should look. You're not coming from this past narrative. It's just sort of this emotional intelligence that gets created between two people when they can come together and have the hard conversations. Because when two people's worlds meet, there is going to be those hard conversations, and there's different beliefs that we do live or have been conditioned by, and it's a matter of whether you can be able to have those conversations without trying to imprint your beliefs onto the other person, and just allowing it to be so alive in the moment.
Nice. And with that, would you see two people obviously together in a relationship or seeing each other or whatever, would you see the work as an individual thing that each needs to be doing, or a combined thing that they do together?
Well, I feel like it starts individually all the time.
And then they meet in the middle?
And they meet in the middle.
Yeah, cool.
And then they get to have this dialogue and this energetic experience together where, and it was actually a conversation that I was having the other day in terms of, like if someone's coming from a wounded space, because look, as much as we've done the work, we're going to have our wounds that are going to show up, right? Because in relationships is where we get to grow, because we shine that mirror, or we reflect that mirror within each other. So when someone's in that wounded space, having the other person in that conscious space to be like, hey, I really see that what's happening right now is impacting you, and I just want you to know that I'm here for you when you're ready to talk, or if you just need me to hold space for you, that's totally cool. But not meeting them in their wound, if that makes sense.
Yep.
It's like being conscious enough to know that you're not, like, I'm not taking it as a dig at me. I'm witnessing you in your feelings, in your truth. So I'm not meeting you in that space, and we're not like, I'm not going, oh, he's angry with me and he doesn't want to talk to me. It's like witnessing that individual where they are, and just being like, I see you. I can see that you're hurting. I can see that something's on your mind, and I'm just letting you know that I'm here when you're ready to have that conversation, and, you know, like being able to hold that space without being reactive.
Yeah, I feel like that's a difficult thing for men to do as well, and not come from a defensive standpoint or a judgmental standpoint when it is just a simple conversation like that.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases it gets wayward.
And I feel like just tapping into that as well, I understand like primally men want to fix stuff, right? So when their woman comes to them and they're just like, you know, in a state, or they're sad, or the men just want to, okay, how can I fix this? And they're in that fix mode, as opposed to them going, hey, I see you. What do you need from me right now? And like asking the question, as opposed to trying to fix it, or thinking that it's even, you know, about yourself, because it's touching on a wounded space of you. Maybe it's a space where you can't sit with your own deep emotions that are coming through, so it triggers you and you're like, shit, we've got to shut this stuff down real quick because I can't handle it. And that's what I feel like a lot of people do, not just men, but women do, if it's a space that they aren't comfortable with sitting at. You know, a lot of the times when I work with people and they start crying, the first thing they do is say sorry. And I'm like, what are you sorry about?
For what? Yeah.
Yeah. Or if I've been in a space where I start crying, people just want to like, oh, are you okay? And they just want to like suppress that to get you to stop crying, because it makes them feel uncomfortable, you know, having to sit with someone that's just really, truly in their pain.
Interesting. I love this topic. I love talking about this. Obviously, you know, in the past, relationships has been something that I've really wanted to get on top of, the work that I do. So to hear the different polarities and how they sit is really, really powerful. I want to ask a question around how women are feeling right now in regards to men. Now, this isn't as a scope of all men, but there's this stigma around I posted a piece of content that went viral not too long ago. And it was around women not needing men. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what women mean about that?
Well, I guess it's essentially for me. When I seen that, I was like, wow, that's a very powerful point of content that you put out, and you do see it as something that's right at the forefront. And I'm going to go a bit two ways on this one, right? Because I feel like right now in society, there is this really big light being shone on domestic violence in relationships. And the more that comes up into the algorithms, like we were talking about algorithms before, the more that comes up, everything is energy, and it's an energetic frequency. So if you're tapping into that, you're going to be finding more of that in your life. And yes, it is a huge topic, and I'm not trying to say that it's not. And women are feeling fearful, like they don't feel safe in the relationship, they don't feel safe physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, because there is this great divide that's happened, and it's happened for generations. Like, we're talking hundreds of thousands of years that this has happened. It's like there's the woman that is just supposed to stay at home and do the dishes, look after the kids, cook the meals, and then there's the man that goes out and provides, and basically he makes the money, and then there becomes that control in the relationship because he's the one that's making the money, she's the one that's staying at home. It's like these two worlds that were meant to work together so beautifully and support each other's roles and move through life as a powerful force that have now been completely separated from the experiences that we've experienced. And unfortunately, women are in a space now where they don't feel safe. They don't feel like their heart is being held by a man. In some of the women that I speak to, they meet a man and they're really interested in him, and they're giving themselves a lot, emotionally, sexually, intimately within the relationship. And then they go on to find that they're either in a relationship or they're seeking multiple relationships. So therefore, they don't feel safe in that space. And then they just blanket all men are all cheaters. So it really depends on the woman and what her experience has been and her environment has been growing up. If she's had an experience where her mum was cheated on by her dad, she's probably going to attract a relationship that's similar, right? So this is where I'm saying that it can be very condition based, or it can be very environmentally conditioned as well with what we're seeing in the media. And I'm also wanting to bring up the fact that there is this emotional component that men haven't explored as such until now, I feel. And men are being able to speak more about their emotions, which then makes women feel like they know their man, because their man can express to them what's feeling for them, if they're worried about something, if they're fearful about something, if something's actually really hurting them, if they're understanding their patterns and they're knowing that their relationship that they're having with their partner is stemming from a disconnection with the connection with their mother. Now I feel like that's happening more and more, where men are getting more in touch with that, especially with the work that you do, because you're getting people to pattern recognition and all those types of things. However, it's not like that for a lot of men. So they're not willing to talk about their emotions, which then keeps women, there's like this big wall that's happening between them. Like, women are just such emotional creatures, and they just want to get close to you, and they want to know you, and they want to share life with you. But then the man is like, whoa, I can't let her into my heart, because that's a really vulnerable part of me, and vulnerability is, I guess, what women are wanting.
I have to ask, is that enough? What's enough these days? The divide, it seems, has spanned pretty thick, pretty far, pretty wide. What do you think is enough, and what needs to be done to bring two together, that connection again, in today's modern era?
What is enough? Oh, yeah, that's a big question. What is enough for women?
What is
Or
enough for a woman that they get from men? Has that changed? How does that look these days?
I feel like it all comes down to connection, like a sincere, authentic connection, and being able to fully show up with integrity and authenticity is probably the biggest thing. It's like, you know, can you, are you true to your word? Like, are you a person that can actually stay true to your word? And how you do one thing is how you do everything. You know, so if you're out there drinking with the boys and you're, you know, completely just like running amok and you know, entertaining a lot of different women, but then you've got a woman at home and then you come back and you play this family life with, you know, there's no integrity in that. It's like how you show up behind closed doors is how you should show up in front of anyone. It's like that old saying goes, how would you show up if you think no one was watching you? Mm. And I think that's the next level of evolution for men and women, to actually show up with deep integrity and authenticity in who they are, because that's freedom in my eyes. Mm. Like when you've got no skeletons in the closet and you can just be like fully you and people see you for exactly who you are, then I think that's true freedom, and that's going to be what's going to attract you to someone that's showing up exactly the same way. So I don't know if the question is what is enough. It's like, what are you willing? What's willing?
Does that come from both sides?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it has to be both sides.
Has to be.
So if you want something, it's got to be the opposite way as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been in situations where I'm the school of life. So for me, like growing and evolving myself is a daily ritual. Like it's something that I just didn't do once and think that now I'm healed. And you know, like there's so much more along my healing journey that I've still got to do. And I'm definitely not saying that I'm perfect. And it's also a willingness to actually look at those imperfect moments and grow from them and learn from them, and not only witness them, but then embody the learnings. Yeah. So embodying them, and then like, because one person can't be growing while the other one is staying stagnant. Like I said, everything is energy. So you've got this one person that's on this vibrational frequency of creating more love and joy and peace and happiness and excitement in their life, and then you've got this other person that's just bored.
It's like static radio.
Yeah. It just doesn't even work.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of like when one person is willing to be devoted to their evolutionary path, and then you've got someone that's just happy just sitting where they are, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I get that. I think two people have to be either willing to grow together or just stay exactly where they are together.
Yeah.
In retrospect, either way, but yeah, you can't have one or the other.
Yeah.
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 So I want to, just for any men who are going to be watching this, I want to know, what is it you work with women? Mm-hmm. A lot of them come in here, a lot of the stuff is around their own growth.
Yeah.
What does it look like for a woman when a man does the inner work, and how does that impact things below?
As in
how does, when a man shows up and does the inner work, how does that show up for a woman emotionally and how she feels?
Yeah. So if a woman's aware and she's conscious, that'll show up as...
I like that actually. Yeah.
That'll show up as her being like really intrigued into him, and there's this level that she chooses to be in the energy of that as well. Like, you know, how can I continue to grow, and how can I learn more about myself within a connection and relationship like that? Whereas if a woman isn't conscious, that would scare the shit out of her. You know, that it's almost like, you know, I don't know, maybe you've had it with some people before, but you're just so conscious and you pick up on so many different things. You pick up on their energy, you know, the way that they speak, their body posture and all that sort of stuff, and they're just like, they're really thrown back by that.
It's hyper-awareness. Hyper-vigilance.
It's almost like they're like, whoa, like, you're seeing too much of me that I don't want you to see. So then they just go whoop and they retreat and they're out of there. They just, it's too much for them because they're being witnessed completely from a man that's actually seeing them, you know, where they are. And that can be quite confronting. I guess it's the same with men.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I've had that experience with men when you start to acknowledge areas of themselves and that they don't think is obvious, but it becomes obvious for the conscious woman.
Yeah. That's interesting. Some really cool points. What do you think emotional unavailability costs a relationship today?
Oh, it costs the whole relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Okay, so you can have a man that sits there and listens. Yes, yep. I'll do that. Yes, I'll, you know, because a man wants to essentially be the best version of himself or his partner. And so this is how I feel personally. They want to keep connection within the relationship. So they'll either listen and say that they're going to do the things, but then never follow through. Or they will just completely shut out that whole emotional availability where they're either dissociating with work, so work becomes an addiction, or sports, or other things like drugs, gambling, drinking, like those things become these, spaces where men become emotionally distant.
Yep.
And although they deep down want to, there's this deep fear of being hurt, and there's that vulnerability component that they don't want to talk about. And emotional vulnerability leaves women feeling unseen, unheard, unappreciated, unloved, you know, like all of those things where women are designed to be nurturers.
Yeah.
You know, our you know, if you want to look at back in the primal spaces, it's like women nurture. You give them something, they'll create something out of it.
Yeah.
You build a house, they'll create a home. You give them, you know, sperm and they'll create a human.
Yeah.
You know, women are in that space of creation. And when there's the emotional, when that's not available to them, they feel really on their own. And I guess that then creates that distance between the relationship, because when there's no safety there, she can't fully be fully herself and feel safe. She doesn't want to come up and hug him and hold him in his moments when he's not emotionally available there for her in her deepest moments.
I love that. This is a really powerful question. I think it's going to create a bit of polarity. How do you determine between a woman who has done the work and a woman who is just following the narrative of the work that needs to be done to protect herself and blame men?
Oh, you're speaking my language. So back when I first started all of the work, right, I was a self-development junkie.
Mm-hmm.
I went to that many self-development courses because I was just like, this is so amazing. Like, I spent 30 grand in like 6 months on self-development courses.
Yep.
And you'd talk to me and I would be able to tell you everything. Like, I was like the encyclopedia of self-development. And it wasn't until I actually sat back and I was sitting in this shit of my life, in one of my slumps, darkness, if you want to call it. And I was just like, how have I done this work? And I'm here right now. Like, I don't get it. And I really sat with that. And it was really interesting because at that same point in time, Tony Robbins was coming to Cairns. And everyone was like, Tony Robbins is here, yeah. Shellie, you're coming, aren't you? And I was like, no, I'm actually not. And they were just like, what do you mean? Like, you come to all of this stuff. This is your jam. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not spending one more cent on another self-development course until I can embody what I've already learned.
Integration. It's powerful.
Integration, embodiment.
Yeah.
So you can know all the things, you can say all the things, but if you're still sitting in a space of judgment and blame and victimhood, you haven't embodied any of it. You haven't implemented any of it in your life.
Yeah.
And so for me, implementation, integration, embodiment was like, I was like, I have to walk the walk. I have to walk the talk, whatever the saying is. It's like I have to be that. Like I can't just be saying that I'm doing that and then not fully doing it. So embodiment for me, and I know that that word gets thrown around all the time. It's like this new thing, but integration, if you say, integration of the work, like pull out the pieces that actually really landed for you and implement them into your life. Because I can guarantee that when you do that, your whole life will transform. Your energy changes. You start attracting different people, different things, different experiences, different circumstances into your life. And that's where it lives. It's like, I've seen it in my work with personal training. You know, people like will tell me, oh, this is what I'm eating and this is what I'm doing. But then like you'll see them on the weekend and they're just like on, you know, getting fucked up, like drinking, and then they're like eating pizza and ice cream, and then you're just like, man, like all good, zero judgment. But you can't show the world on your social media, Instagram, that you're going to gym and you're doing all these things, and then behind the scenes you're actually doing all that. It's that authenticity and integrity piece that I was talking about earlier.
And do you think you can pick that up through languaging? Like the way people speak, or how does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, I had a really good point that I was going to pull from what you said. I can't remember though. You said something that landed, and then I asked that question and completely blanked it out. But
well, if it's meant to be, it'll come back.
It'll come back. So, with that, I just want to go into a couple of questions around, you know, the polarities, relationships, because it's something that I have seen men and women. So women come to me and they say that there's no good men out there, rah, rah. Where are they looking for good men?
That's a really good question, because I mean, a lot of the women that I speak to, they're trying to find them in apps.
Or dance floors and pubs and clubs?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. It disheartens me because I know a lot of great men.
Yeah.
And
you're not going to find them in those places.
You're not going to find them in those places.
No.
You know, they're at church, they're building businesses,
Yeah.
they're in the gym, they're doing fun stuff.
Exactly.
There are great men on dance floors and pubs and stuff, but they're few and far between.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of
Your
them.
chances of meeting them are few and far between.
A lot of them are distracted. A lot of them are,
Yeah.
you know, escaping from the thing that you're trying to not get out of a relationship. So, this has been a good chat, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
There's a lot of things that have opened up my eyes through questions I've been asked, and men that I've spoken to, as well as women that I've also connected with. So I think bringing this conversation to the table is really, really powerful for both sides, which is awesome. But I want to go into some really controversial, splitting sort of things between healing and trauma, and understanding it a little bit more. Like, I want to know, because I have my views on the work, you probably have your views on the work. Are we creating more of a problem than what it's worth? Or is this stuff that we haven't known and now we know more than ever?
I would say it's stuff that we haven't known and now it's been brought to the table. Yeah, for sure. Because it's quite evident that there is loads of generational trauma. All we have to do is look as far as our parents. We don't even have to go to the grandparents. You know, it's obvious. And just even having the conversations with older generation and how they grew up, it's just wild to see what was tolerated and what was accepted back then compared to like what it is now, where people have so much more autonomy over themselves and the way that they're setting boundaries. Like boundaries just wasn't a thing back then. And then, now we've got these boundaries and people are just like, whoa, what do we do with this? You know, and it's actually, I think it's really cool and it definitely is evolution.
Definitely. I feel like it's completely changed my life. Diving into these in such a short time. I feel like I've been able to timeline hop and just become a completely different person based off the shit that I was willing to go deep with and understand. But with the term being used so much in the health and wellness industry and across the board with coaching, personal development, even, you know, business success and all that sort of stuff, getting on top of that as an identity standpoint and understanding your trauma, is it an overused word, do you think?
Trauma?
That we're hearing a lot about, yeah. Because if someone who didn't understand anything about personal development heard that word, I think it'd scare them away in a lot of senses.
Definitely does. Yeah.
Is it an overused word in that sense? And how do we get it across to people easier?
I do think there is a component to that, absolutely. And, you know, it's also been talked about big T, little t trauma. Like, obviously, there's different stages of trauma, but that's only determined on how the person feels individually anyway. Mm-hmm. What could be little t trauma to you could be big T trauma to me. So it's like, there shouldn't even, well, there's not really a scale at the end of the day. However, yes, you're right. I feel like that word can really freak people out. And they're just like, what do you mean? Like, some people are just like, I don't have trauma. And then when you start, you know, talking and you start unpacking and, you know, there is the trauma that comes out. But some people suppress it so deeply that they actually don't even know it's there until they start unpacking and peeling back the layers. So I guess it's probably more a better, I guess, language maybe around it. It's more about noticing what's not working for you in your life, and are you noticing that it's actually a pattern? Because underneath patterns is emotions, and they're the ones that are dictating everything that happens within our life. So yes, the emotions could be linked to deep trauma, small t, big T, whatever you want to call it. And if we could move away from that trauma-informed therapy and all of that type of stuff, and let's just talk about, like, how's your heart? You know, how are you? Like, what's really happening in your world right now? And move into more of that language and getting people to actually reconnect back into themselves. Like what you said before, you were searching for everything externally because that's easy, right? But it's like, how can we come back to the, how am I feeling? How am I breathing? Some people just don't even know, like, that their shallow breath is keeping them in that fight or flight response. So it's like, how do we kind of like simplify it, where it's not like, come here, we're gonna like dig into your trauma, and it's just like, come here and let's have a chat, let's connect.
Yeah, I think I look at the industry in a big scope. I feel like a lot of people can sort of lose themselves on the journey to doing the next best thing, the next big thing, and creating a story that they always need to heal from something.
Yes.
And never giving themselves permission to say, hey, I just want to be peaceful and happy. I just want to be solid with myself. And they're always searching for something that someone else can give them.
Yeah.
How do you see that? Because I see my program as a place that people can come, they can learn about it, and then we stay integrated through brotherhood and accountability.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it doesn't need to be anything too drastic in most cases, but a lot of people get caught up in the whole, how do I say it, the epidemic of self-development and having to do 1,000 things until they give themselves permission to live.
Yeah. And you're so right. And I actually did I think it was a reel or a story on this. It's like being addicted to the work. And it is just another form of addiction. It's like you think that there's something wrong with you that you've got to constantly keep fixing. And the way that I see it is just like you, is being able to give people the tools that they can use over and over and over and over again.
Yep.
It's not like something that they've got to then go pay for again and again and again and again, right? Because like I was saying before, when I was doing those self-development courses, when I sat back and actually looked at it, it was all coming back to the same thing, but just said in a different way.
Yeah.
And so when I got that, I was just like, well, I don't really need to do another course. Yes, I can do another course to get better language, get better understanding of different, areas and patterns and all of those types of things. But realistically, it's like, keep it simple, stupid. Like, it's like bringing it back to the basics. Yes, I'm feeling activated right now. Okay, what's underneath that? Unpack it, whether you journal, whether you breath work, whether you meditate, whatever you do, like have your toolbox. And for me, like you just said with your brotherhood, I always have that saying, it's like, give someone a fish, you feed them for a day. Teach them how to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. And it's just like, how can you give people these tools that they can use for a lifetime that can help them on their journey of healing and evolution? Like, I'm not a healer, you're not a healer, but we do hold space for people that's safe and sacred, that they can do the healing work, because there's no judgment. And it's holding them to their truth without being the victim and without blame and all those other lower vibrational things.
Yes, stepping into that truth is fucking so important.
It's freedom.
It is definitely. So at one circumstance, you have a whole bunch of people who refuse to stop doing the work and just admit that they've done enough and give themselves permission to succeed. But then you have the other side of the pendulum, which are completely unconscious. How does that affect their life, health, and relationships?
They're unconscious?
Yeah. For not doing any of the work.
Well, I guess if they don't see it as a problem, it's not a problem.
That's a great question, and that opens up so much.
Yeah.
So,
because if they're happy where they are, then they don't see it as being a problem, and there's nothing different.
I like the way you rephrase that. So I have a lot of friends who are happy in their business, happy with their hustle, happy with their life balance and all that. But it's the people that understand that they're not, but do nothing about it, and then take that home, that into their relationships.
Project it into their life.
Yeah. Or might even seek coaching and then still do nothing about it 5 years later. Yeah, cool. That's
and
awesome.
it's whether they're willing to take responsibility for why those things aren't working, or whether they're just going to blame the relationship, whether they're going to blame the work, whether they're going to blame their boss, whether they're going to blame, whatever it is. It's like, are they actually willing to go, who's the common denominator here? And go, what responsibility can I take to find out how am I projecting this in all areas of my life?
I love that. Do you want to tell me, we'll wrap it up in a minute, but when you talk about that, the blame and blaming others, and is there anyone really to blame other than ourselves?
No.
There's not. How do you see that? Because that's something I hold myself to. I take radical ownership on everything that happens in my life, and it's drastically changed my life. Even if I'm not in a position where I believe that I'm completely not at fault, I'll still look at it and take away a lesson of some sort, and I believe it's completely shifted my life. I no longer look externally for things. How does that look like for you?
Well, I believe that you are exactly where you're meant to be in every given moment. And whatever that looks like is, you can either be the victim of it, or you can take the lessons and you can do exactly what you've done and grow and learn and evolve and implement and integrate and all of the things, right? Which is going to put you in a place where you are now, where you are loving life. You're like way better than where you were before. Whereas, with where you were before, there probably was blame. There was blame with your dad. There was blame with your ex-girlfriend. There was blame with, whatever it may have been. And I've been in that space too. I blamed my parents for a very long time. You know, like growing up in a household where there was DV and all of those types of things. It was just like, oh, well, if my parents were better, then I would have been better, right? Or, you know, I sat in that space, and it's the victim space. Whereas when I was able to kind of step back and look at that and understand that my parents did the best they could with what they had and what they knew, and being in a space now of gratitude of what I've been able to learn and implement into my own life and imprint onto my own children is just like, I am so forever grateful for all of those learnings. And it was one day I did a crystal light therapy healing with one of my beautiful friends, and like just literally just showed me this whole path. Even before I was actually a fetus in my mother's womb, it was like I could see the trajectory of my life and why I had to experience all the things that I had to get me to a point now where I get to share this wisdom and knowledge with other people and be able to help them shift from where they don't want to be to where they do want to be. And I will never take any of those experiences, as shitty as they were, like they've actually like really created the individual that I am today. And I'm proud of that. Like, I'm so proud of that. And I love myself in the way that like I've been to the depths of all these deep, dark crevices of my soul, and I've sat with that. And there's no, like, I don't judge myself for those areas of my life that I would have deemed shit or bad, or, you know, there's no shame around it, because in that moment of what I experienced, I extracted to learn from, and then I became a better person. If you're not doing that and you're continuing the patterns and the cycles, then you're going to find yourself in a shit cycle.
Amazing. Yeah, never taking the lessons is just madness.
Detriment.
Yeah, it doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
Awesome. One last question before we wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the world would look like if everyone was open to doing the work on themselves?
Oh, there'd be so much love. I feel like love is probably the answer. You know, there would be connection as opposed to separation. There would be community, like deep community, where there's like love and support, and people coming together, because like, you know, zooming out, we're all one energy and one, you know, like we've all got the dark and the light, if you want to kind of go there with it. And we would just be living in such a space of so much love and compassion.
Awesome, I love that answer. And how much fear do you reckon that eradicate from the world? The world is filled with fear at the moment. Oh,
so much fear. It would eradicate so much fear. Yeah.
Massive on that.
Because we only fear what is unconscious to us.
Awesome. And for the viewers who are going to watch this later, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. HMB Collective is my handle, and also I've got a website, www.hmbcollective.com.au, and those are the main. I am on Facebook, but mainly Instagram and my website.
And just a quick recap on what you help women through.
I help women come back to themselves and find the confidence, the courage, the connection to self within, to empower themselves to completely, fully show up with full authenticity and integrity, because coming from that space, you attract so many incredible things in your life. Relationships, you know, jobs, careers, connections. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up, so
we do.
Stay tuned, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.